ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Skip E Lowe Looks at Hollywood. On tonight's show, one of Hollywood's great motion picture stars, the wonderful Bob Cummings. And with him, he brought his son, the very talented Bobby Cummings. Also on tonight's show, the many voices of comedian Mr. Jimmy Caesar. And now, the man of the half hour, Skip E Lowe.
Bob Cummings, tell me. Bob Cummings, you went to England. You changed your name. Tell me about those days when you went to England and you came back to America with a British name. Tell me about that.
I don't have to. You just told the story.
I want to know. No, I want to know the story. What's the story? What did you do?
Well, it was in the middle of the Depression.
Uh-huh.
The Depression was at its height, and strangely enough, for some reason, you couldn't get a job in New York in the theater unless you were British. And there were 23 shows running on Broadway, and 19 of them were British. There was The Barretts of Wimple Street, Berkeley Square, Good Companions, Journey's End, so forth. So I got a job accidentally on an ocean liner as a waiter. I've been doing that ever since. And
a good one too, I must tell you. A good one.
What I spilled a lot, but
yeah, that's good.
And the ocean liner that I was on was called the Caledonia, and it went from New York to Scotland. I went to Scotland and got off, and they said, "Listen, you don't have to go back on this ship to New York because you're working for the Cunard Line. You can get in touch with the somebody master, and he will allow you to go down through England and stay here at least a month if you have enough money.
Yes.
And then you can go back on the Berengaria, it was. So I did that. I went back on the Berengaria, but in the meantime I stayed in England, and I got the idea, if I could just listen to these people talk and do impersonations of them, then I would be able
to go back to America.
Go and tell them. I didn't think I would tell them I was English, but I told them I'd lived in England. But I did this. I stayed there a month. I was all alone, and it didn't seem impossible then. It does now. And I wrote letters to all the New York managers, producers, directors, whatnot, saying that I was the youngest actor, author, manager, director, producer in England, and I was coming to America for a short visit. I wasn't particularly interested in the money, but I wanted the experience of playing before American audiences.
Right.
I arrived back in New York, and 3 days later, I was featured in The Roof by John Galsworthy. And John Galsworthy came over to direct the show. And I've been working ever since.
Name, what was the name? What did you use?
I didn't have a name.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Tell me the British name you used.
Isn't that funny? I can't remember. What was my name?
You don't remember?
Blade Stanhope Conway.
That was the name you used. For how long did you use that?
Until I found out that the initials were B.S. Conway.
Robert Cummings. Bob Cummings. First it was Robert and then Bob.
Well,
but first it was Robert Cummings first.
Sure.
But first motion picture. When did you come to Hollywood?
I came to Hollywood in 1935.
35.
With the Ziegfeld Follies. We played at the Biltmore Theater downtown, Fanny Bryce and Willie Eugene Howard. And I went back to New York with the show, and I thought, this is the place to be working.
Yes.
Came back to California and was given a role opposite, isn't that awful?
Doesn't matter.
I can't think of the studio. No, I know the studio was Paramount. Margaret Sullivan.
Great
in
actress.
So Red the Rose. Great actress.
Great.
And I got this first part, but I didn't tell them I was English because they were looking for a Texan, so I told them I was from Texas.
Was it a Western movie you had to do first?
I think it was. No, it was a Southern movie.
A Southern.
It was the original Gone with the Wind.
I see.
It really was. And
this
so
is at Paramount. At Paramount.
I got started, and I've made a lot of pictures ever since then.
My favorite of all films of all times, I must tell you, Bob Cummings, King's Row. I was a kid.
I was in King's Row.
That's right. Ronald Reagan. our president today. Tell me about those days. Kings Row. Was that 20th century? Or
No, that was Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers, naturally, of course. You had great people like Betty Fields. Loved her. Just think she's dynamite.
Claude Rains,
Claude Rains,
Charles Coburn,
Ann Sheridan.
and Sharon.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
What kind of a person was Ann Sheridan? I'm going to ask you real
She
quick.
was a girl.
Yes. But what kind of a girl? I mean,
Adorable. Everybody loved Ann Sheridan. I never knew anybody who didn't like her.
she was a woman, wasn't she? A real
was just
beautiful
great.
woman.
Just great.
And Ronald Reagan, working with Ronald Reagan.
He was probably the most honorable man I ever met. I often say I'd trust him with anything. My life, my wife, my money.
When he was an actor, or now, you still trust him, would you say, Rob?
No, I still trust
You
him.
would?
Yeah,
I see. Go ahead.
he's talking the same way then as he now as he did
Yes.
then.
Uh-huh.
And I could see in those days. As a matter of fact, one day he was holding forth on the set, talking to Charlie Coburn and Ann Sheridan and myself, and he was practically giving a political speech. Now this was 1942.
Right. That picture came out with your King's Row. 42? 43?
It
something?
was released in 43.
43,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was sitting on the set talking, and there came a pause, and I said, "Ronnie, have you ever considered becoming president?"
Uh-huh.
And he said, "President of what?" I said, "President of the United States." He says, "Oh, you don't like my acting either, do you?" I never forget that. So we've been friends all these years.
Are you still friends with him right now?
Oh, yeah.
You still
When he became president of the Screen Actors Guild, he
Right.
called me and he put me on the board. I was on, and I bored everybody, believe me. And so we've known each other all that time. Now, what else would you like?
Betty,
to know?
I want to know about Betty Fields. What's happened to that lovely lady?
She died.
She died, I know, but what happened in her career those days? I mean, she was such a great actress, Bob Cummings. Why did she become such a real big actress? I mean, real big. She was a beautiful actress.
Well,
Tell
she
me.
did become big. When
Did she?
she went back to New York, and when I last saw her,
Theater?
yeah, when I last saw her, she weighed about 210.
Oh, oh, really?
She got very avoirdupois.
I
You
see.
see, I speak Italian.
You parli italiano, see. But you're married to a Chinese lady.
I am.
Uh-huh. Do you speak Chinese?
Only at night,
Only pillow talk.
pillow talk.
Tell me about the Jack Parr days. What happened? Jack Parr walked out on the show. What I want to know about Jack Parr. You have to have a glass of water on that one. Bob Cummings, Jack Parr walked out on his joke he did, and they called Bob Cummings.
That's right.
Sub in. Tell me.
Why they called me, I don't. I think I do know. I was called to be on the Jack Parr show, and I had a vitamin company, and we made protein tablets and vitamin tablets and whatnot. And he got on the show. I got on the show, and he said, "Now you have some sort of a vitamin." I said, "Don't. Just a minute." And I got in my pocket and got out a bag of these protein. I said, "Open your mouth. Open up. Here, wait. Put another in." And I put in about 6 protein tablets, big ones like this. I said, "Now chew, chew." And he was chewing. I said, "This is the way to take over a talk show." And I got up and went down and talked to the audience, and we kept cutting back to him. I said, "See?
You're still chewing.
Those wouldn't come out. They turn into glue." And
But you had to leave the show. I understand you had to leave to do something in China or something, or Hong Kong. You were doing a film.
no.
No. But you did sub for Jack Parr, though.
The fact that I did this funny show with
That's
him where
right.
I took over the
You
show.
took over the show.
And he couldn't talk.
Yeah.
They called me and said, "Jack is leaving the show.
Right.
He's very angry. Would you take it over?" And I did. And
How long did you take it over for, Bob?
about 20 minutes. No, it was about a week.
A week.
2 weeks.
Did you enjoy doing the talk show? Working.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
in New York. Audiences
Yeah.
aren't they fun? It is fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Health, body. I mean, your vitamin pills. Tell me about those days. You still take vitamins?
Sure.
Because you look
Not the same ones. I swallowed the others.
But you look absolutely wonderful, I must say.
I do.
I want to know your secret. You know, I mean, you have a good secret. I'm going to introduce your son right now. Your son is Bobby Cummings, and this is very nice meeting you, young man. You're very. Tell me about your dad. Does he still take vitamins a lot?
He sure does. He sure does.
He does?
Yeah.
And I understand your mother is Chinese.
Yes, she's Chinese.
You're half Chinese and
half daddy.
half daddy. Is it tough to be Bob Cummings around the house? I mean, come on.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's around the house. It's fun. You know, there's never a dull moment. That's for sure.
I understand you're going to school. You're studying.
Yeah, I'm studying at FIDM, which is a fashion college. It's the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising.
Right.
In LA.
He's 18 and he's in college.
He's 18.
Yeah.
How nice. And you're going to be a designer, a fashion designer, or you want to be an
Hopefully,
actor?
I'd like to get my own label someday. And you know, I'm more or less looking into the field of
That's a good
acting,
age. That's a good age, 18, to get into the fashion designs. I mean, he knows exactly what he wants at 18. I mean, Jimmy Caesar is sitting next to me. Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I am
Do you remember when you were 18? Jimmy Caesar.
Skippy, I
Wait,
have to say,
I'm going to tell you something. You remember when you were 18? Let's first. Don't say proud. I mean, look at this young man. 18 years old. He knows exactly what he wants in life.
well, no, but there's something, Skippy, that you don't know.
What?
Now, it happens that he happens to be incredibly talented as a fashion designer.
Right.
But he is equally talented as an actor. I know something else about him. Now, you know that I do impersonations.
Oh, don't tell me he's an impressionist.
Yeah, and does some great voices.
Does he really?
Does the biggest thrill I have had of Skippy for the last few years. Now, I had the great honor of meeting Mr. Cummings. He insists I call him Bob. Even after all this time, I must call him Mr., and that's because of the respect. You know that.
Right.
And I first met Bob. I first met Bob in it was Honolulu when I was traveling with an Army show. It was the Rolling Along show of 1959. And through Eddie Sherman, who was the columnist there.
I know Eddie Sherman very well. He was married to
Peggy Ryan. Yes, they're still very much married.
And I knew Eddie in Boston. Eddie Sherman had a nightclub act in Boston.
In fact, Norm Crosby and Eddie were a team.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
All right, well, at any rate, Eddie and Peggy introduced me to Bob.
Right.
And why they were particularly thrilled is because he has always been my idol. As you know, I'm always talking about Bob Cummings, and I would, in fact, because I started in life as a stutterer, very bad stutterer.
Is that how you got into your impressions?
That's exactly how I did. That's
Still doing it today.
Bobby. No, but what happened was I had seen, the first voice I did, I had seen a Laurel and Hardy film, and I came home, and I would usually, you know, I stuttered. But I started talking to my mother, and I said, Mama, are we having pasta tonight? And I didn't stutter. And like, gee, this was, but it's long, but it's a little unusual in an Italian family to be talking with
And
an
you
English
just realized,
accent. True.
How wonderful.
Then I had seen, and you mentioned, King's Row. Was I in love? There's
Jimmy,
another
wait,
cast, but listen to this, and then I did Bob Cummings.
Right.
I found out that because see, Bob Cummings had a way of he could be strong, and yet you could feel that he could have a certain vulnerability, which we could all relate to.
Yes.
And this is why Bob Cummings, not only the women who realized what an attractive man he was, but we, as men, and my father and my brothers, we enjoyed Bob Cummings because he showed that you could be real, you could be natural, and now, today, through the grace of God, and I say if my mother and father only alive, he has become one of my best friends, or he has allowed me to be one of his best friends.
Very sweet.
And when my phone rings, and I'm talking on the phone and says, "Oh, hi, Jimmy, this is Bob." I say, "Why isn't Mama here to hear this? Why isn't?" Oh my God, my father would say, "He knows Bob Cummings," you know. And so we have a lot of fun, and you know his sense of humor because they should have seen what was happening as we were getting set up for the show. Had you hysterical, he had the and Bobby, though I'm leading.
I want to hear
this.
his impressions.
Yes, all
I
right.
want to hear you both do it. Can you?
I watched Bobby grow up from a child, and always a gentleman. Now we see this handsome 6-foot Bob Cummings,
18-year-old young man.
1987. You know, and so we kid around on the
Yes.
phone. One day I called, and the machine was on, and I'd never heard a message machine because I would usually get Bob or
Yes,
Gigi
yes,
or Bob.
yes.
But I hear some voices.
Yes.
And I says, "Wait, did I get the right number?" And then I heard the number quoted. You have to do, Bobby, now I don't mean to put you in a spot.
Go ahead.
You did, now if I'm not mistaken, now listen to this, Eddie Albert, who is a buddy.
Right.
You did Casey Kasem, you did just do a fast run through of like what you did on the message.
Well, I believe, I'm not sure what I started out with. I did Jimmy Stewart in there.
Yep.
You know, I did the Jimmy Stewart is what I did. Yeah, because Jimmy Stewart, he said it's deeper. You know, it's deeper than the deep blue sea is what it is. Was that?
How about Robert Cummings? Bob Cummings. Can you do Bob Cummings?
I leave Bob Cummings up to Jimmy here. He's the pro
that's
with Bobby.
Well, do Sylvester Stallone. Do Stallone.
You know, like Sylvester Stallone, he's kind of hard to do because you know he's got a lower voice than I do, you know. But you know, yo, that's all I can say. You know?
All right. Now,
President.
yes, that's what I meant.
the
His
Des
former
Reagan?
co-star.
Des Reagan?
Yes, do it. His former co-star, Des.
Okay, I'm not used to doing this very
That's
often
right, don't
to
worry.
most people, but
You want to go out and come in again?
I think it was once he said, well, Nancy and I just bought a new waterbed. Of course, Nancy and I, you know, we enjoy it a lot, but Nancy calls it the Dead Sea.
He'll kill me. Ronnie sees me, he'll kill me.
Bob, do you know how beautiful it's going to be to be sitting here? And there's Bob and Bobby Jr., and I'm seeing Bob and Ronald Reagan.
Let me hear your impression of Durante. You did the show Durante. You did a one-man show. Did you say his one-man
No,
show?
I saw Buffalo.
Yeah.
No, that's the show.
Thank you. It is Buffalo. It is. Do
All right,
Buffalo for
he's
me.
been my greatest booster in this. This hat, in fact, you know, folks, when we think of great comedy, we think of the Bob Cummings Show. That youngster has it. I mean it, Bob. I've got one Bob gets a kick out of.
Okay.
This is Bob gets a kick out of this one. My name is Josh Sperling, Hair Club for Men. Do any of you wish to send in for hair weaves and our booklet, which will show you the many things you could do with your hair? By the way, I'm not only the president of Hair Club for Men, I'm also one of the clients.
That's one.
Bob taught me the value of, by the way, Skippy,
Where are you
my
from
dream-
originally, Bill?
Buffalo,
Jim?
New
You are
York.
Buffalo.
Yes,
When did you
yes.
get into business, actually? Let's do real quick.
I started, I'm one of 17 children. I'm one of
One of
the 16th.
17?
Yes.
God, your father
My
has-
father was a producer. I had to get
He had
into show
any
business.
other hobbies or what? I mean, go ahead.
But what happened was I told you I stuttered very badly,
Right.
and my mother, rest her soul, who she was worried. She said, "Gee, Caesar is so nervous," because that's my real name, Caesar Pasquale Tronelloni.
A nice Italian.
Yes.
Right.
Well, she said, gee, yeah, Caesar, and she worried about me. God, I think, by the way, it's her birthday coming up. She unfortunately
Wish her a birthday.
left us. It's a little over 20 years ago, but I'm going to celebrate her birthday.
You are.
Because it's the day that she was born.
I love
So but she heard me doing these impersonations.
Yes.
She was looking for something that I could do
Yes.
that would get my mind off of the studying and the nervousness.
Yes.
So she actually pushed me to get in front of audiences. I was only 13 years old. And then I got a job at McVan's nightclub in
Buffalo, New York.
I wasn't quite 15, Bob.
Yes.
And this was with a line of girls
And a
production.
circlet bar.
Yes.
I remember.
And I moved right up to the headline spot. I was there a year.
Yes.
Now Jerry Marshall of the Marshall Brothers,
Right.
they had broken up. He came to Buffalo. He was in Buffalo, saw me, and I went on the road pretty much like in the Jolson
I
story.
see.
The man, I
Yes.
was 16.
How
Now,
nice.
they criticized my mother. They said, what kind of a mother could you be sending your son on
Right,
the road?
right, right.
And I must tell you, that's the special quality she had. She touched every one of the children and found, what could I do for this one?
So
What-
you advise people who do stutter.
Yes.
You would advise them, try that.
Oh,
They might
definitely.
have that talent.
Definitely.
Like Melina had, that's the
Yes.
girl who won the award this year.
Yes,
She's helping,
yes.
she's getting into be. This you would,
Oh,
for the
yes.
stutter
By the
people,
way,
this is very good.
By the
isn't it,
way,
Bob?
Mr.
Quite
Cummings,
nice.
one of Bob's best friends, the late Raymond Massey,
Yes.
off stage when he was not with a script,
Stuttered.
He stuttered very badly, but when he picked up
Yes.
that script, and I want you to know that, and all this strength. So what it is by doing impressions, I think
Yes.
it makes you concentrate
Yes, yes, yes.
on the words you're about to say, and then it comes out. So what are we going to do now?
Raymond Massey. Raymond Massey. Tell me, I love that man. What kind of a
I
man
never
is
knew him very well.
He's kidding.
Come on, tell me about that man. I like to know.
No, I didn't know him very well. That's true.
Oh, you
I
didn't?
thought, I assumed
No,
because
I
you've
met
been
him, but
several.
I didn't know him very well.
Oh, you didn't know?
Do you know who worked
I-
in Kings Row with him?
Yes, who?
Our favorite, Maria Uspenskaya.
I was just going to bring it up. I was just going to bring it up.
Grandma.
She played
I
my
want
grandma.
to know, yes, I would love that wonderful woman. Brought lots of tears to my eyes when you came to her. Tell me about that scene, those wonderful scenes of Kings Row. Did you enjoy doing them, Bob?
Oh, I loved him.
Did you? What's your favorite film?
Kings Row.
It is your favorite.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something. I was only 12 years old. Movies today for 12-year-old kids don't have movies like that. The writing, the acting.
No, and the
Tell
music.
me, and the music, the combination of it all made that. Tell me about those days. I mean, are we going to have those days again in Hollywood?
No, you'll never have him because it was in black and white.
Yes, go ahead.
And color detracts from the story.
Yes.
Black and white frames your story so beautifully.
Yes.
And the lighting is so beautiful.
The lighting.
And if you get color, it's too much.
So you're unhappy what's happening with making black and white into color?
No, not necessarily,
No.
because they're not changing
The format of-
negative. They can
yes.
still run it black and white if they want to. They change it into color, run into color, whichever
Uh-huh.
you want to do.
Uh-huh.
But color detracts from the story.
Yes.
When you have great,
That music in Kings Row, who wrote that music? It was brilliant.
Eric Wolfgang Korngold.
God, the music. It is just... How many times you've seen the movie?
Oh, I've seen it 4 or 5 times.
I have it at home.
Do
It's
you?
my master
Do you?
copy. I keep a copy of it. Yes, I do. It is my favorite film of all motion pictures.
Oh,
and I
really?
was only 12 years old, and I just adore that movie.
Yeah,
Of
it's a
all
good
films, that is my favorite. I'm very honored to have you here today because
Thank you.
it was a wonderful
feeling
film.
is musical.
May I interject something? You were, because you started as a child in the business,
Yes,
as
yes,
an
yes,
actor.
yes.
But Bobby has the education. He's a today boy at 18. Yet, I mentioned Ted Lewis. He says, "Oh, wasn't he good when my baby?" He's aware of all
grew
of
up.
the.
He
Isn't
grew
that
up. Of course,
yes?
he grew
isn't
up.
that wonderful?
Tell me what's going to happen with you now. Do you want to get into the film industry, or you just want to be a designer, or
Well-
you just taking it day at a time?
Well, right now, I'm working for a perfume company.
Ah.
It's called AW Industries, and it's affiliated with Centura Creations.
Yes.
And we have a really large line of cologne for men and perfume for women and things like that. But
I see.
I'm
What
more.
kind of cologne is it? I haven't seen any of it yet.
You haven't.
I smelled it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, it's your basic colognes.
Basic colognes.
Yeah, just
Robert Cummings, Bob Cummings, looking back over your life right now, do you have any regrets?
No. No?
There must be something. Would you live it all over just like you did?
I think so.
You would.
Yeah?
You're happy just right now in your life?
Yeah.
Everything? Do you still take vitamins? Tell me about the chic, the one thing you went to Switzerland, you and Cary Grant. You took...
Oh, I never went with him.
No, but you had the...
We went to Dr. Nehan's over, so I was writing a book.
Right.
And I wanted to put in a copy, a chapter on Dr. Nehan's live cell therapy. So I went over there, took my wife, and we had the live cell therapy.
I see.
And I wrote a chapter, and I spent quite a bit of time with Dr. Nehan's. And the American Medical Association, I'm told the publisher, who was Prentice Hall,
Yes.
that if you don't cut that chapter out of the book, we'll ruin the book. That's what they told me. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But they cut that chapter out
I see.
about live cell therapy. Well, nowadays you can get it over here in Mexico, just below the border
Yes.
here in Tijuana, and it only costs about half what it costs to go to
Really?
to Switzerland.
Yes. Would you tell the young people out there, is your son show business?
Oh, he's so much better than I am. He is a natural-born actor. Of course, he grew up backstage watching me do theaters in the round.
Right.
We played.
Do you enjoy doing the theaters in the round?
I
TV
did,
was difficult,
except
was it,
that it
Chappelle?
ruined my voice.
But television, difficult getting up every day, all day long, TV. Bob Cummings
Television
show.
was as hard as the theater in the round,
Yeah.
because in the theater in the round, you've got 8 shows a week.
Yes.
And once you sign up to do it, you're there.
True,
You better
true.
be there.
Yeah. You enjoy doing the theater, don't you,
Oh, I
Jim?
love it. I
You
love
do?
it. In
And how
fact,
about, what is new and exciting right now, and what is planning for Jimmy C?
Gee, well, I'll just allude to this.
Yeah,
Through the
real
grace
quick.
of God, it looks like in 4 weeks I'll be going to Italy for a film.
Right.
I'm not allowed to say what it's about or the film, but it's like, thanks to Skippy, and I say this, I've been on your show. You
Right.
promoted Baffola, the Durante show, so
Right.
much, and through the kind help of Mr. Cummings and Boris Vanoff, Boris is like is
Right.
my manager. It looks like.